Well, thank you so much for that. Then, of course, the unemployment saga in the country continues. Let's move to this story now. The research conducted by Frontline Research Group, Aware.org's flagship program, hashtag No to Under 18, found that media and communication channels play a crucial role in molding perceptions on underage drinking, and that school remains the most effective touch point for awareness, while television and social media have stronger reach among older teens. Let's get further insight on the report now with Frontline Research Group Executive for Social and Sustainable Research, that's Jean Moolman, and Aware.org CEO Mokebe Thulo, who joins us now, both of you. Thank you so much, Jean and Mokebe. I appreciate your time here. John, perhaps we could start with you on this one then, and just get a clear sense of what it is that you were seeing then with regards to this research that, of course, you were along with Aware.org on. And what is it actually saying to us, if we're to describe it in simple terms for our audience?
Morning, Arabile. Yes, well, what we did, we were looking at teens specifically and trying to understand how teens perceive and how teens understand the alcohol harm reduction programs that Aware is running in South Africa. We really wanted to look at the insight into the attitudes, the behaviors, how messaging around harm reduction or underage drinking are received by teens. And this will help us really to define and refine our approaches and how we speak to teens across South Africa. So we spoke to more than 1,100 teens in South Africa aged 11 to 17 to get their perception of underage drinking and the programs that we're offering.
And the understanding here from teenagers, I mean, one would think that their perceptions, their thoughts are very unique and very much their own because they're still developing their own sort of opinions in life, but they're very strong-willed and strong-hearted on particular elements. And then when it comes to underage drinking, they could just think, well, it doesn't matter. It is just what I like to do. It won't change anything. What are the clear perceptions that you perhaps found?
What I think was important was we saw that peer pressure, social environment plays a huge role. Yes, teens are involved in programs when they're young. Teens are getting educational programs, specifically at school. But just not education, what we found is not a sufficient driver of behavior when it comes to teens. We find that programs focused on peer pressure, social integration, teaching social skills become more and more important for teens, especially as they become older. Then there's also specifically sports initiatives and activities that play a huge role, particularly when kids are smaller or younger, to help them to maintain that social resilience against social pressures, specifically teen or peer pressure that we found.
Yeah, Mokebe, what has this helped Aware.org pretty much put forward? I mean, does this change the way you then put forward the messaging, particularly around underage drinking?
Good morning, Arabile, and thank you for the platform. So we commissioned this piece of research at the end of last year because we wanted to find out two very specific things. Number one, we wanted to find out what would get through to young people when it comes to messaging, so that we could craft our messaging in that way. And two, we wanted to find out across the programs that already exist in this space, including the programs that Aware.org works in, if the messaging is actually working, if what we're doing is actually the right thing. And interestingly, a lot of the work we do is pretty much white labeled as we work with implementation partners. And so it is quite accurate in terms of what we intuitively knew and the research that we do when we are on the ground and in field amongst the young people that we engage with. We've also previously done research, but not as extensive as this. So this actually really validates the kind of work that we're doing, but it further informs us in terms of the nuances that one has to take into account when creating these programs. I think John mentioned one of these nuances, which is the age of the young people. You cannot paint all young people with the same brush. So 11 to 17 is our underage target audience, but you cannot speak to them or communicate with them in the same way, not just from a platform point of view, which is the way you speak to them, but also from a what you say point of view. So that is going to certainly help us to sharpen our sword when it comes to our messaging and the creation of our programs.
Does this mean you're also then looking out for different platforms, different areas, different partners to come up with the right strategy then to attack those, or to to really deal with those different age groups, as you said, within the underage drinking sphere in order for the messaging to come across? So looking at different avenues in order to reach them.
Absolutely. I mean, one of our mottos is meet young people, or meet our audiences across our platforms where they are. So we want to understand where it is they are in order for us to be able to meet them there. And yes, we are always looking for new ways that make sense in order for us to speak to the audience that we're speaking to effectively. So, for example, when it comes to innovation and new and different ways of doing things or engaging with young people, we have partnered with Roblox, which is a gaming platform, and we are in our third phase of producing this game that speaks to underage drinking without it being obvious, because one of the insights is that you cannot speak at young people.
Yeah.
You must speak with young people. Another thing that we did, which was brand new last year, is that we partnered up with a TV program on one of the channels called Skim Sam.
Yeah.
And this was integrating content around underage drinking into an existing storyline so that we could speak to these young people, as this is one of the TV programs that we know is popular amongst them, as evidenced by another piece of research, which is the Generation Next survey. So yes, we are always looking for new and interesting ways to engage with young people. And we need to do so in many ways, face-to-face being a very key part or crucial part of the work that we do, because we know that it is the most impactful. And we know that in order for us to be able to change behavior, we can't engage with young people once off. But we also have a responsibility to reach young people at mass.
Yeah.
And so we have to find solutions in those ways too.
Jean, just as a final question, one of the other ways that, or the other outcomes here, key findings, sports programs. I know that definitely would have hit home for me. What did you guys necessarily find with the sports programs and how that helps?
Well, Arabile, like I said, education is a key pillar of driving alcohol harm reduction messaging, but peer-led initiatives, such as, for example, the Makers of Tomorrow program that Aware.org runs, and those youth and sports programs. It's not just about keeping teens off the streets. It's not just about filling time, but it builds confidence, it gives them structure, provides good role models for teens that would live in a social environment that's not conducive. We tend to look at it always everyone else's problem, but it's really things that start at home. It's things that start in their own peer situations, and that's where these programs really allow teens to respond and be socially integrated and feel in a way that they matter more than just as a messaging platform.
Listen, as somebody who continues to have to follow the sagas of whether it be underage drinking or just over drinking by some as well, this is very pertinent. It's important data that ultimately gets disseminated here, and hopefully it bears fruit and we begin to see the impact thereof as well a little bit later on in the year. To both of you, thank you so much for the time. Really appreciate it. Jean Moolman, the Frontline Research Group Executive for Social and Sustainable Research. Also Mokebe Thulo, who is the Aware.org CEO. A good morning to both of you, and thank you so much for your time here on Newzroom Afrika. With that then, let's recap your top stories this hour.